Truelli! This is the final episode of the season and one where we will go over the final player statistics and see how they all stacked up and what the redraft would have been if we had this inside knowledge before the season going over those first 4 rounds. Plus, Green Acres will be joining me later to discuss fantastic Green Bowl title run and to go over these final stats with me as well. So let's get right to it with Winners and Losers, Part 3. Let's get into the top 7 quarterbacks with points and where they were drafted. There were some quarterbacks with injuries that kept them from the top here, but we will discount that for this analysis, as an injured quarterback can't win you fantasy games anyway. First, Josh Allen with 426.58 points. Allen was selected in the second round with the 22nd overall pick by the Clash at Demon Head, one place behind Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes comes much later on our list. Second, Jalen Hurts with 404.22 points. Hurts was selected in the second round with the 24th overall pick by Loki Lebowski-Thor. Third, Dak Prescott with 383.68 points. Prescott was chosen in the 10th round with the 112th overall pick by Air Jordan. Huge value pick there. Fourth, Lamar Jackson collecting 381.22 points. Jackson was selected in the 3rd round with the 29th overall pick by Remember the Titans. Fifth, Brock Purdy has 360.6 points. Purdy was chosen in the 11th round with the 131st overall pick by the Siamese Dreamcats. Another huge value pick. Sixth, Jordan Love finishes with 360.52 points. Love wasn't drafted. Air Jordan picked him up in week 2 of the waiver season. Seventh, Patrick Mahomes, 335.22 points. Mahomes was selected by Banditos Del Rio in the 2nd round with the 21st overall pick. So the winners in this round, Air Jordan and the Siamese Dreamcats for getting value picks with their quarterbacks. Obviously, Air Jordan got Prescott and Love off waivers. Both didn't make the playoffs, though, so that's something to think about. The Clash at Demon Head, Loki Lebowski-Thor, and Remember the Titans were justified with their early quarterback picks as they finished here, though Lebowski-Thor didn't make the playoffs out of that group. The losers, of course, Banditos Del Rio with a high pick at quarterback that didn't pan out, though he did finish runner-up still. The Stellar Bitches, My Gosh Gives Lose, the Multiple Scoregasms, and the Elite Mother Tuckers with quarterbacks taken in rounds 3 and 4 that did not crack the top 12 at the position. Clearly, we're all losers in that aspect. Next, the top 12 running backs and wide receivers as an overall flex. Let's go through those. First, running back Christian McCaffrey with 325.3 points. McCaffrey was chosen 2nd overall by Risky Business, who took 3rd overall in the league this season. McCaffrey's output makes him an early frontrunner to be the top overall fantasy pick in 2024. Second, wide receiver Tyreek Hill with 252.2 points. Hill was selected 8th overall by Green Acres, who is the 2023 Green Bowl champion. Hill is clearly destined to be a 1st-round pick next season, possibly a top 5 pick. Third, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb with 251.7 points. Lamb was chosen in the 2nd round with the 14th overall pick by the Siamese Dreamcats. Lamb is another candidate to be a top 5 pick in 2024. Fourth, running back Raheem Mostert with 242.7 points. Mostert was selected in the 10th round with the 114th overall pick by the Stellar Bitches, was later traded to Banditos Del Rio, a huge value pick, maybe the draft pick of the season. Both teams made the playoffs too, with Mostert helping the Stellar Bitches to most of her wins, and Banditos riding Mostert to a runner-up finish. The funny thing is that Mostert will probably be picked early next season, but will have a lot of question marks and red flags, which may also drop his ADP to the 4th or 5th round. We'll see. Fifth, running back Kyren Williams with 223 points. Williams was not drafted. He was picked up off waivers by Green Acres in week 2 and proved to be the waiver pickup of the season. Sixth, running back Travis Etienne with 217.7 points. Etienne was chosen by the Elite Mother Tuckers in the 3rd round with the 34th overall pick. This was a very good draft selection here, and Etienne will most likely be a 1st-round running back in 2024. Seventh, wide receiver Mike Evans with 202.3 points. Evans was picked up in the 6th round with a 68th overall pick by Bandidos del Rio. A very nice draft pick in the mid-rounds here. Evans will probably go much sooner in 2024. 8th, running back Derrick Henry with 201.36 points. Henry was picked in the 2nd round with the 19th overall pick by Mygashkia Slews before being traded to Air Jordan. Henry helped both our teams at times this season, but neither one of our teams made the playoffs. Henry will probably be a mid-round running back pick next year with the uncertainty of which team he might be on and his age. 9th, running back Rachaad White with 194.6 points. White was selected in the 5th round with the 55th overall pick by the Stellar Bitches. A very, very nice selection here. Another reason why the Stellar Bitches made the playoffs and finished 4th in the league. White is most likely going to be a 1st or 2nd round running back selection in 2024. 10th, wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown with 191.5 points. St. Brown was taken in the 2nd round with the 13th overall pick by the Multiple Scoregasms. A correct pick here. And St. Brown will probably be a 2nd round pick again in 2024, depending on the Detroit quarterback situation. 11th, running back Joe Mixon with 191.3 points. Mixon was chosen by Risky Business in the 2nd round with the 23rd overall pick. A very good pick, and Mixon will probably be a 1st or 2nd round pick again in 2024, especially if Joe Burrow comes back healthy. 12th, wide receiver DJ Moore with 190.1 points. Moore was selected in the 6th round with the 63rd overall pick by the Elite Mother Tuckers. Another good pick here, and Moore will probably move up a few rounds in next year's draft, depending on the Bears' quarterback situation and how the Bears handle the NFL draft. So the clear winners with these 12 picks here, the Stellar Bitches, Elite Mother Tuckers, and Bandidos del Rio all got value picks in the draft. The Siamese Dreamcats, another winner because they got Lamb. I mean, Lamb was a huge pick. Lamb, while the Dreamcats didn't make the playoffs, Lamb obviously was her top star and almost had her do some things, even in the consolation bracket. The Scoregasms, obviously, with St. Brown, another winner. A very good draft pick there. Risky Business with his running back picks might be the biggest winner. Green Acres for his waiver prowess, getting Kyron Williams. And then top wide receivers with Hill being the only 1st round pick. That's interesting. Lamb and St. Brown were 2nd round picks. Moore and Evans were 6th round picks. So that means that wide receivers definitely were winners here, and we didn't pick them early enough. The losers, 1st round running backs, definitely a loser here. McCaffrey was the only 1st round running back to be in this top 12. He was the top player. Nick Chubb was injured and out for the season early. He might have been there. Austin Eckler, Bijan Robinson, and Tony Pollard all struggled, not worth their picks at all. And speaking of Chubb, injuries, another loser. Chubb was obviously one injury. Eckler missed 5 weeks and never recovered. Top overall pick Justin Jefferson was on IR after a great start to the season. He returned to have backup quarterbacks thrown to him, still did well. He probably would have been on this list. Jamar Chase had to deal with a Joe Burrow injury, injuries to fellow wideouts, and then an injury of his own late in the season. Probably hurt his standing. Josh Jacobs, Cooper Kupp, and Jalen Waddle all missed time with injuries as 2nd round picks, did not live up to the 2nd round pick. So pretty tough time. So next, let's go over the top 5 tight ends. Number 1, Sam Laporta with 144.4 points. Laporta was picked up as a free agent by Bandidos del Rio in Week 1 and was not drafted. Bandidos later traded him to Remember the Titans. He'll surely be selected in the draft in 2024. 2nd, George Kittle with 139.2 points. Kittle was chosen in the 5th round with his 60th overall pick by Mygashkia Slews. Kittle will probably be a mid-round pick again with his beast potential, obviously capped by his inconsistency, but still one of the better tight ends. 3rd, Travis Kelce with 126.4 points. Kelce was taken 4th overall by Bandidos del Rio in what might be the worst draft pick of the season. Kelce will probably still be a top tight end pick in 2024, but no one's going to be taking him in the 1st round again, I would think. 4th, TJ Hawkinson with 124 points. Hawkinson was taken in the 4th round with the 47th overall pick by Risky Business. Hawkinson will most likely be one of the top tight ends drafted again, but it's hard to justify a 4th round pick on any of the tight ends. 5th, David Njoku with 120.2 points. Njoku was taken in the 7th round with the 78th overall pick by the Siamese Dreamcats. In terms of tight end picks, this was actually a very good one. Njoku would probably be a top 5 tight end again next season, but his ADP will depend on who's throwing to him. The winners with the tight ends, my slews and Simon's Dreamcats for waiting later in the draft to select a tight end, not taking the bait of those top picks. Banditos is a winner for getting Sam Laporta off the free agent list before the season started, and then trading him for DeAndre Swift and Deebo Samuel, kind of turning that even into higher value. But Banditos Del Rio is also a loser because he took Travis Kelce in the first round. Now, he couldn't foresee the whole Taylor Swift thing, and I'm not saying she's the one reason why Kelce wasn't doing well. The Chiefs' offense struggled as a whole, but it's just tough times when you take someone 4th overall and they score that low. I would say another loser is anyone taking tight ends in the first 4 rounds. Laporta was about 47th overall when you account for running backs and wide receivers. So that would be a late 4th round pick, but probably a 5th round pick, late 5th round pick when you factor in quarterbacks. Kittle was 49th, which is an early 5th round pick at best, and obviously where I took him, so I got good value there. Kelce and Hockenson were 63rd and 65th, respectively. Justifies about a 7th round pick for them. Njoku was 67th, another 7th round pick, which the Cats did do. But obviously, tight ends, maybe not a good idea to take them in those first 4 rounds, even if it's a beast like a Kelce could be if the Chiefs' offense is doing well. So that's how it goes. So let's finish this up. Top 5 defenses and kickers. We're going to start with the field goal specialists. First, Brandon Aubrey with 159 points, selected and dropped off waivers multiple times. The Clash at Demon Head was the last to select Aubrey off waivers in Week 8. Second, Justin Tucker with 145 points. Tucker was taken in the 8th round with the 94th overall pick by the Clash at Demon Head. Third, Jason Myers with 144 points. Myers was taken in the 15th round with the 170th overall pick by Risky Business, though Myers was later dropped. Fourth, Jake Elliott with 142 points. Elliott was selected in the 14th round with the 157th overall pick by the Multiple Scoregasms. Fifth, Harrison Butker and Dustin Hopkins tied for 5th at 139 points. Butker was taken in the 10th round with the 110th pick by the Siamese Dreamcats. Hopkins was picked up and dropped several times on waivers until an injury took him out late. The winners here, the Clash at Demon Head, obviously, for having the top 2 kickers on her roster. I would say that that's obviously a win. Risky Business and the Multiple Scoregasms for waiting until the end to select a kicker. Still getting top 5 production at the position for much of the season. Both of them clear winners. The losers, I would say, I would still say drafting kickers too early is a loss. I mean, Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker were technically value picks. When you look at the rankings, Tucker was 81st overall in points, including all quarterbacks as well. Butker would have been tied for 92nd. Myers would have been 84th overall, but he ended up dropped later in the year, with his production being volatile late in the season. Elliott was tied for about 86th overall. Both of those were still high-value picks when you think about it. Aubrey and Hopkins were not drafted, though. So the key here is that depth becomes an issue with the missed opportunities to draft complementary pieces to play during bye weeks, to take the place of injured players, and to mix and match during the season. Kickers clearly can be picked in the 8th or 9th round when you're just specifically looking at value based on where they finish, but you better be picking one of these top ones, or it's going to be a big bust. Not to mention the fact that several waiver pickups are on the list. It is also something, not only waiting, but just kind of playing the matchups is a way to go. Maybe luck into one of the top kickers. You just have to, sometimes you got to watch the teams, see how their offense moves. Lastly, let's bring in the top 5 defenses as our last area of discussion. First, the Baltimore Ravens defense with 194 points. The Ravens were picked in the 14th round with the 159th overall pick by the elite Mother Tuckers. Talk about a value pick. The Ravens were 31st overall, including all players. It's amazing. Second, the Dallas Cowboys defense with 183 points. The Cowboys were selected in the 14th round with the 167th overall pick by Risky Business. Another fantastic pick here. The Cowboys were 39th overall. These are 3rd round defense picks possible. Third, the Cleveland Browns defense with 174 points. The Browns were not drafted. They were picked up off waivers in week 2 by my Goshkia Slews. And it was a waiver pickup that meant I could pretty much set the defense and forget it, even if there were a few bad weeks. 4th, the Buffalo Bills defense with 165 points. Green Acres drafted the Bills in the 8th round with the 89th overall pick. The Bills ended up 54th overall with points, but Green Acres ended up benching the defense and then dropped them for the Green Bowl. 5th, the Miami Dolphins defense with 164 points. The Stellar Bitches drafted the Dolphins in the 9th round with 103rd overall pick. The Dolphins finished 55th overall with points. So the winners here, clearly the Elite Mother Tuckers and Risky Business for waiting and getting amazing value with their defenses. My Slews for choosing a defense from the waiver wire and waiting obviously on the position as well, not wasting a high draft pick. We're all winners there. Losers, drafting defenses too early is still a loss here. Clearly there are some great defenses, and maybe they can justify a higher pick. But you better be sure that you're taking one of those teams. While Buffalo or Miami, obviously both solid at the position, there were some weeks where neither was used, and Miami even had negative points in the 3rd place match, which cost the Stellar Bitches. The Siamese Dreamcats struck out with the Eagles in the 8th round. That was a bad pick. The 49ers and Jets were good, but not top 5 good as 8th round picks. And then, that's just, it clearly shows that while, I could justify the Ravens, like I said, they almost 3rd round value. But then maybe the rest of the team is weaker if you take them that high. Maybe I could justify the Ravens and the Cowboys as the 8th and 9th round picks possibly. But everybody else, it just seems like picking defenses that early, you're just trying to get like the starters kind of rolled out, but you might hurt your bench. I don't know. It's a tough call, but I'm still saying a loser drafting defenses too early. So now let's redraft the first 4 rounds with what we know and go team by team with who should have been drafted. Also sticking with quarterback picks that we made. They essentially went late 2nd round starting with the 21st pick. Only a few adjustments here, as obviously a team might not take 4 straight running backs or 4 straight wide receivers, and clearly they wouldn't take 2 quarterbacks so early in the draft. So there was a little movements, but this is essentially based on what the final overall rankings would have been based on the points they scored. So let's start with Lebowski Thor. He would have had Christian McCaffrey, Dak Prescott in the 2nd round, Gus Edwards in the 3rd round, and George Pickens in the 4th round. That's a pretty solid team. Does it look solid? If we were looking at it beginning of the season, we would have liked McCaffrey. We would have been like, what the hell with the other picks? He's probably a playoff team with those 4 players. Risky Business would have had Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, Isaiah Pacheco, and James Conner. He would have struggled with Conner being injured, but at the end of the year, if he made the playoffs, also a very solid team. The Clash at Demon Head, CeeDee Lamb would have been her 1st round pick, obviously solid. Jalen Hurts, quarterback, solid. Bijan Robinson as her number 1 running back, okay. Devontae Adams as a number 2 wide receiver, actually a pretty good number 2 wide receiver, even though he had some down weeks. Pretty solid. I don't know if that's Green Bowl title solid, but it would have been pretty good. Banditos Del Rio would have had Raheem Mostert. He still ended up with him in a trade. Also would have had Josh Allen, Jerome Ford, if he foresaw the Chubb injury. He took Ford in the 3rd round like a maniac. I don't know. Tony Pollard in the 4th round as his number 3 running back. If he was able to play Pollard in the flex in some of those decent weeks he had, that would have been nice. But it's a pretty solid top 3 for sure. Remember, the Titans would have had Kyron Williams, Keenan Allen, Lamar Jackson still. Look at that. You still would have had Lamar Jackson and Brian Robinson. It's actually a pretty solid team. He might have been, winning a couple more games and certainly would have been a Green Bowl candidate with that draft if he did that. So remember the Titans, think about that. You could have had Kyron Williams in the 1st round. My Goshkia Slews, Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamar Chase, and Jordan Love. If I saw that was my draft, I would have been like, what the hell, was I on drugs? Like, what was that? but it actually would have ended up being fairly solid at the end of the season. I'd probably make the playoffs with those four guys. I would have certainly picked up a couple more wins based on what I had here. So that goes to show you never know. The Stellar Bitches would have had Mike Evans and Debo Samuel with the first two picks, pretty solid. Brock Purdy as their quarterback, very solid, and Elvin Kamara as their running back. She would have had to find someone to replace Kamara when he was suspended early in the year, but he would end up being a top running back on her team. It's pretty solid. The Stellar Bitches probably still make the playoffs with that team. Green Acres, Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, and Kenneth Walker with the first three picks. Solid running backs. He would have had depth when Montgomery went down, when Walker went down, all those things. And then Stephon Diggs in the fourth round is the top wideout. Now, Diggs had a horrible end of the season. I traded for Diggs. Awful trade because Diggs didn't do anything out of nowhere. Not sure what the hell happened. Early in the season, this would have been a solid team. We would have all been thinking fairly solid team. Green Acres, he would have probably had to trade Diggs and get somebody else, but this was a team probably makes the playoffs with, but I don't know if he wins a Green Bowl title with, so that's something to think about. Air Jordan, Rashad White, James Cook, and Nico Collins would have been his picks. He didn't have a third round pick. He traded to get a fourth round pick. And I have to say, running back wise, White and Cook, White surely would have been a great running back to have as your number one. Cook was decent, would have been a very good number two. And Nico Collins had some really good games, especially at the end of the year. It's so amazing that he's so high up the list that he would have been a third round pick here. Or Air Jordan probably doesn't start 0-4 with this team, I'll tell you that, with those top three players. Obviously he'd have to supplement later in the draft, but it's actually decent. Elite Mother Tuckers would have had Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, Amari Cooper, Devon Achane, and Baker Mayfield. The Achane pick, he would have been probably really worried after those first couple of weeks. But then when he went off in the middle of the season before his injury, he would have been like, oh yeah. He might have traded Achane after some of those big games. I'm not sure about that. But, solid wide receivers. He obviously had 2 fourth-round picks. He would have had very good wide receivers, and Baker Mayfield, who actually was a serviceable quarterback, would have been okay. So that's just the way it goes. The Mother Tuckers probably make the playoffs with those wide receivers alone, and with Achane's couple of big games, they would have won those weeks probably. So, that's just the way it goes. I don't know if it's a championship winning team, but the Mother Tuckers would have probably made the playoffs. The Siamese Dreamcats would have had Joe Mixon, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and D.K. Metcalf. 2 good running backs, 2 good wide receivers. The Dreamcats probably make the playoffs with that solid lineup there. The multiple scoregasms, DJ Moore, Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, and Patrick Mahomes in the fourth round. I have to say, Moore had some good games, had some down games. Hall had some good games, had some down games. Swift was fairly solid for most of the season. Patrick Mahomes was top 7 quarterback, not a great quarterback, but taking him in the fourth round, when you look at him getting 15 to 20 points a game, he did have that one big week too. This is probably a playoff team. Again, I don't think they're winning the title based on what we know, what Swift did in the last game and everything like that. But Moore and Hall had good games, so the Scoregasms definitely would have had a shot. So there you have it. Now to close out the season, let's bring in Green Acres to discuss his Green Bowl title and go through some of the top storylines from the stats we just went through. And also with the redraft to see what Green Acres thinks about that. It's time for championship talk! All right, everyone. Welcome Green Acres, Nate Dogg to the show, the 2023 Green Bowl champion. What's going on? You feeling pretty good to be the champ?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It was a hard season. A lot of injuries and stuff, but it all worked out well.
Yeah. So
let's
healthy
at the right time.
That's true too. You had some guys definitely come back and light it up at the end there. A few questions for you. One, obviously with your auto draft, you had to be very active on the waiver wire all season, and you were.
And one of the things I saw for the Green Bowl, the last couple days, you switched, you made a decision, and you went with Fairbairn a kicker and the Jaguars defense, and obviously that worked out well for you. So, what were your thoughts on that? To bolster your squad, what went into that decision?
I mean, I was just thinking I had to do everything I could, for the Green Bowl.
Yeah,
And I was thinking with Fairbairn, I had the quarterback too, CJ. And
yeah,
I was thinking, if I take the kicker and the QB, I'll like have a backup plan. Like one of them is gonna do well. Like if
oh
like
yeah,
CJ didn't do that well as far as touchdowns, but then with Fairbairn as the kicker, I made up for it. And then for the Jags D, I mean, I kind of got lucky. I don't know.
I mean, you went with the
I mean,
matchup,
they
right?
were playing the Panthers, but the Panthers actually did pretty well the week before.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, so
You never
I don't
know.
know. I was just
And you
thinking.
dropped.
What's up?
I was gonna say you had the Bills too. You dropped them, and Uncle and Banditos picked them up, and I was like, oh man, that's huge.
I honestly like the day of it. I wanted to drop the Jags and go with the Bills again, but then
Yeah,
I saw that he picked them up, so I was like, all right, I'm sticking the Jags.
yeah.
They both were pretty good though, honestly.
They
But yeah,
were, yeah,
the Jags, they got a shutout. They got a bunch of sacks and stuff, so they did well.
yeah, definitely. Obviously, your big guy, Kyron Williams, waiver pickup back in week 2, and the Rams decided to go with him as their lead back, and he became a staple to your lineup for much of the season. Obviously, had some injury for a little bit, but he had a dominant playoff performance. Definitely definitely one of the guys that's a Green Bowl MVP candidate when we announced those in a couple weeks. But yeah, he had a great week. Did you expect him to blossom into the star like he did and lead you to that title?
No, not at all. But I mean, I saw the reason why I took him is I saw that like the Rams were like cutting Cam Akers,
Yeah.
and so I was like, all right, let's just get the next guy up. But I had no idea. I don't think the Rams knew who it was going to be. But
No. I mean, he was multiple touchdowns multiple times, and then obviously really stepped up at the end. He's probably going to be, I would assume, going to be a first round or early second round pick next year based on this. But yeah, like he's certainly
he
stepped
was,
up.
I think he was like constantly ranked as like RB2 in like the online
Yeah,
rankings and stuff by the end
yeah,
of the year. So I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know where
It's
he came from or how he got that good. But
yeah. I mean, he certainly went off and led you to that. It was one of the reasons you won a title. But
yeah,
yeah, I
for
mean,
sure.
the last time you were on the show several weeks ago and everybody was on, you had some confidence. You were taught you had some confidence that you were going to be at this point, at least in your talk. But when did you really start to believe this could be your year to win the title? I mean, obviously, making the playoffs is one thing. Being able to go to win these games when in the last couple weeks is tough. So, when did you really believe that this could be your year?
When Kyron came back and he started going off again, that was the key. Like I lost a few games when he was injured, and then like CJ got injured. I had a bunch of people that were kind of down in the middle of the year, but yeah, when he came back, I was feeling pretty good.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously a great run. Congrats on winning the Green Bowl, your first career title and your second appearance. One day maybe I'll join those ranks of winning this thing as the commissioner of the league. Of course, you were the chosen one too, and you were able to save all the worlds for now. But now we're all lost in the void, so who knows where we're going there? Clearly, this interview is only in our heads because we're in the void. But you know, I would say FC Tons of BCs has that advantage in the war because we all have to bounce back somehow. But perhaps if you're able to successfully defend a title in the future, no one's able to win back to backs. Maybe you'll be the one that gets us out. So, what are your thoughts on repeating as champion in 2024?
I mean, I think I can do it again. It's gonna take some luck,
Yeah.
some waiver wire pickups for sure.
Yeah. I would say you certainly have the waiver. You have some good waiver ones. Kyron Williams, probably the waiver pickup of the year when we look back at everything. But we'll have to dive in deeper with that. But yeah, that's pretty good. So yeah, so like before we close things out here, let's talk about some of the final player statistics and things like that. I went through them all obviously at the top of this episode, but I'm going to throw some highlights your way and go over the potential redrafts that we would have had we known how everybody was going to finish, which obviously is impossible. But we're going to use some lines from a great show that I've been watching again, Mystery Science Theater 3000, some riffs from them for you to talk about whether you're surprised or not surprised. If you're not surprised by the highlight I'm giving you, you can say a line from Space Mutiny, the episode with Space Mutiny, which is one of my favorites. Put your helmet on. We'll be reaching speeds of 3. And if you are surprised, you can say this line from a riff from the Final Sacrifice episode, another good one. I wonder if there's beer on the sun, is the line. So let's start here. So first, the first highlight, we had 5 wide receivers that ended up in the top 12 for non-quarterbacks, with only 1 first-round running back in our draft ending up in the top 12. And there was obviously lots of first-round running backs taken. Are you surprised or not surprised?
I think, is there beer on the sun? Like some of the running backs that, like Saquon Barkley and
Yeah.
Derrick Henry and stuff, like I don't know what happened to them,
Yeah. Eckler on my team, horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible
Eckler
pick.
too. Eckler was a beast last year.
Yeah. Probably just because I drafted him. But yeah.
I mean, Tyreek, I'm not, put your helmet on for Tyreek.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Tyreek is he certainly was out there. He probably, as you'll see in our draft, should have been pick number 2, but when we get to that. But we'll look at that in a second. So our second highlight here, 3 of the top 7 quarterbacks were either not drafted or they were taken in the 10th round or later. While the first quarterback off the board, Patrick Mahomes in round 2, ended up 7th overall. Are you surprised or not surprised?
Again, is there beer on the sun? It was a weird year, like you had some like rookies doing really well, like CJ, and then some veterans. Like, what's up with the Chiefs?
Yeah,
they look terrible on offense.
Yeah, their offense is not rolling here as they're heading into this last week. I guess they're going to make the playoffs and win the division, but it's just like, I don't know. I did have Rashee Rice off the waiver pickup, and he actually did pretty decent at the end of the year. Probably one of my only highlights that I had in the last 5 horrible weeks that I had. But Mahomes was a bad pick, and that was the whole thing. So let's get to the third highlight here. All 6 playoff teams in our league either had they either had 2 non-quarterback players in the top 12 or a quarterback in the top 5. So they either had a wide receiver and running back, wide receiver, 2 running backs in the top 12 for non-quarterback players, or their quarterback was in the top 5. Are you surprised or not surprised by that?
I would say, put your helmet on, because all the games were super close. Like, the best team versus the worst team, there wasn't a huge difference.
Yeah.
So like, it was just about like getting like a full roster that everyone's kind of contributing for some of the games, and just winning some close games. But I thought the whole league was really close. Like anyone could win any game. So I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, definitely a balance this year. It was tough. I mean, obviously everybody had at least 5 losses too. So that's I think that's the first time that's happened since our inaugural year, I think. Usually somebody's had like a good year, like only had 3 losses or less. But yeah, that was pretty nuts how that went. Yeah, I would have to agree with that too, just because essentially the one team that did have that player that could score 30, it meant so much more, I feel. But even a team that had that might not have won a game just because the other team had like balance or something. So it was definitely tough. But I think overall, when you look at the whole season, having some players, either the quarterback that's going to consistently get you 30 points a game, or have two non-quarterback players that are going to get you 15 to 20 points, like obviously that's going to make you get into the playoffs. So that's just how that
Yeah.
goes. So sticking a little bit with that, our fourth and final highlight here, the playoff teams that had at least the 8th pick in the draft, and the teams picking 2nd through 5th, and we're talking about, obviously in the beginning, there's the snake draft, but first overall pick down. Teams picking 2nd through 5th all made the playoffs, and only teams that had at least the 8th pick made it. So anyone with the 9th through 12th pick did not make the playoffs. Are you surprised or not surprised by that?
Um. I guess is there beer on the sun? Like a lot of the top picks I thought didn't do that well.
Yeah.
And you have players like Kyron or CD Lamb. I don't think he was in I don't think he was in the first round, or maybe I don't know when he went, but yeah.
Late first, I think. He was either late first or early second.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, no,
But
he was
yeah,
second.
you had
He was second.
You had some players, yeah, and then some of my like second and third round picks didn't do very well. Like
Yeah. Mhm.
it was a chaotic year, so
It
it was
was.
hard to predict. I can't believe Derrick Henry, didn't do that great.
Yeah, at the end he kind of fell off. And then there
Yeah,
I was also I was a little surprised, only because we've had teams in the past that had like the 12th pick and they did really well and made the playoffs. You do get to have the 2 back-to-back picks when you're there. Same thing with the bottom. Like normally you're going to get one guy from the first round that's going to be good enough for you, and then you just have to get lucky later in the draft. But it's just, yeah, I was surprised with the playoff teams thing, and then also that the 2nd through 5th picks, and why which it's kind of funny because one of the picks got injured. McCaffrey might have been the best out of those top picks.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Lebowski Thor was the number 1 pick, and he was the worst team in the regular season. So, but
Who did he pick first?
Justin Jefferson, who was out for like half
Um,
the season. So,
yeah,
that's gonna kill you. So yeah, like
yeah.
that.
Plus, there's like a bunch of injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, he lost his quarterback too.
Yeah.
Vikings just got decimated.
Yeah, exactly. So that's tough. But yeah, I agree, man. Beer in the sun for sure. Now let's go to the redraft of the picks that if we knew the stuff before the season, here's how the obviously the draft probably would have went. And if you think that the picks based on the team that I'm going to say are going to be horrible, you can say Packers fans, the horrible truth. That's from a good episode. Actually, hold on a second. If you think, um, and that's from the giant spider invasion episode, by the way. If you think that it would have been good, if it would have been solid, the 4 picks, if you think like, oh man, this team, and we're talking before the season too. So this is a redraft based on if we known what would have happened and the rankings were this way. But also think of like beginning of the season, we don't know what's going to happen. Hope that's not too confusing, but like, like right after the draft, how you would have felt. Um,
Okay.
if you think that it would actually be that team would be solid and ranked high, you can say this could prove to be interesting, but I doubt it. From the Clonus Whore episode, another great Mystery Science Theater one, where there's a whole group of people that are clones, and their only need is to give organs to the regular people.
What was the line again?
for the Clonosaur one. So if you think the 4 picks sound like they would have been solid, this could prove to be interesting, but I doubt it. And then if you think the picks would have been like, if you would have thought, wow, that team's going to be terrible, you can say Packers fans, the horrible truth from the Giants fighter invasion episode. So we're gonna go through 8 of us, not looking at the 9 through 12 picks, just because of the way that we said the highlight, the first 8 would have been making the playoffs or had a shot. So first, Loki Lebowski Thor, he would have had Christian McCaffrey, Dak Prescott, Gus Edwards, and George Pickens as his 4 picks in the first 4 rounds.
I mean, with Christian McCaffrey, I would say the clone one. Sorry,
yeah,
you got to tell me again.
This could prove to be interesting, but I doubt it.
But I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, that's McCaffrey. Obviously, we knew was going to be a stud. Second, risky business had the second pick. He would have had Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, Isaiah Pacheco, and James Conner as his 4 picks.
I mean, that also sounds pretty good.
Yeah, sounds pretty interesting, but we doubt it.
Yeah.
The third, the clash at Demon Head would have had CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, and Devontae Adams as the 4 picks.
I mean, these are all sounding pretty good.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. But we doubt it.
Yeah.
Fourth, our runner-up that you beat in the Green Bowl, Banditos Del Rio, would have had Raheem Mostert, which is funny. He ended up with Mostert at the end of the year after the trade. Josh Allen, Jerome Ford, and Tony Pollard would have been his 4 picks.
I would say because, Mostert got injured. I would say that, Packers fan.
Yeah. The horrible truth.
The horrible truth.
Yeah, Packers fans, the horrible truth. The fifth, remember the Titans. He would have had Kyren Williams. He would have had your guy. He would have had Keenan Allen. Still Lamar Jackson. Hilariously, he did have Lamar Jackson and Brian Robinson. So Kyren Williams, Keenan Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Brian Robinson.
Say it's interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. Obviously, Williams, Allen, even though he got injured, Brian Robinson also got injured, but he certainly would have been a playoff team, I would think, with those 4 picks. Sixth, my gosh, Slews, Travis Etienne, Jamar Gibbs, Jamar Chase, and Jordan Love. How hilarious is that Love would have been high up on the quarterbacks?
That's crazy. I would say Packers fans.
Yeah. I agree. If I had that draft, even though technically, based on, again, what we know, this draft, those 4 players, I probably make the playoffs with. But just seeing those players at the beginning with I would think I had the worst draft ever. I'd be looking to trade guys,
Looking at the waiver wire.
Yeah. The 7th pick, the Stellar Bitches, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Brock Purdy, and Elvin Kamara.
I think that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, especially with Alvin Kamara, he kind of fell off. But
yeah, Purdy ended up obviously being one of the top quarterbacks. I think Evans and Samuel as your 2 wide receivers. That's pretty good. I don't know if she would have got worried and tried to trade anyone at some point, but certainly just looking at that, I'd say it's pretty solid. Maybe we might have made fun of her for Brock Purdy being her starting quarterback, but then we'd all be eating those words. And of course, 8th was you, Green Acres. You would have had Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Kenneth Walker, and Stephon Diggs. So you would have went hardcore with the running backs there. What are your thoughts on that potential lineup of yours?
My one problem with auto draft is that I always end up getting too many wide receivers and not enough running backs. So if I had gotten that one, I would say definitely it's interesting.
You would have definitely had some depth, for Montgomery's injury and things like that. Diggs had a horrible finish to the season, probably the worst trade of the year. But he was great in the beginning, so you would have had a great start. So maybe you would have traded him, and then gotten somebody else. But yeah, like it's obviously pretty solid. It's kind of funny that Derrick Henry, we were talking about, he didn't have that great of a year. You taking him in the first round would have meant that he was one of the guys in the top. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he was disappointing, but then yeah, I mean, he still did pretty solid some weeks.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. He had a couple like kind of big weeks, and then a couple of down weeks in between. But yeah,
Yeah.
so thanks for having that fun there. Thanks for joining in on all this and talking about stuff. And congrats again for winning that Green Bowl, man. What a great season. I wish I knew what that felt like. You'll obviously be getting the trophy to hang around with soon. But again, it's all in our minds because we're lost in the void. but but yeah, it's good times, and we'll have to go do that and next year, and I'll have to try and take the title off your hands, man. Like I'll have to try and take it.
I can't wait, man. It's a
Yeah,
good season.
definitely. And that's the show for the year. Hope you enjoyed it. Before you go, check out the 2024 first round draft order. As we all know, based on the place match finishes, where everybody is going to draft next season. And you can see we're all going to probably take some weeks off, but we can pretty much prepare for next season anytime we want because we know what our draft pick is. Until next time, salut, and thanks for watching this year and subscribing, those of you, and all that. It's good times. Have a good one.